Okay. And I have a ring light. Perfect. So I look very good. Okay. We're gonna do, there might be a stylist coming, just so you know, because it's kind of regularly. So for the episode of Tell Me Mode, we just recorded the first episode. It was the story of like fashion history. And the idea for this episode is obviously to promote Nazraana, but I was also thinking about telling the whole story around bridal Indian wear, which was, you know, what, as I said in the email, like the convergence of like architecture and design and social status. You know, are there certain stones or pearls or colors that are like, you know, like saying something about social class or something like that. I am completely ignorant in that. I mean, not completely now. After a year, I would say I have a basic training now. But imagine like being someone who listens to the thing and has no knowledge. Okay, so I think we can start with that, and I think that's
Are
basically.
they going to create shorter clips of this interview for socials?
So I think they told me they're gonna do that. Yeah,
Okay.
and if you want to transfer, if you want to, sorry,
Will this be edited? Like if we like
yeah.
screw up? Okay.
Yeah, it's completely edited. Me too. I'm probably gonna make grammatical mistakes. So
And do you know when this is this going live tomorrow? This is for next Wednesday.
it's for next Wednesday because they already were editing the first one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm just waiting for the person to ask.
Do
Hey,
you
yeah,
want to show any outfits in this? No, right?
up to you. But yeah. So I will just guide you with the questions, okay? Okay.
Okay, ready.
Hey guys, welcome for the second. There's so much pollution. Sorry.
In LA?
It's awful. It's like it's as almost as bad as London. It's like reaching that point where it's like it's taking you. Yep. Hey guys, welcome to the second episode of Tell Me Mode. I'm here with the team of Nazraana, the biggest Indian bridal wear based in America. Hi guys.
Hi, Annabelle.
Hey, Annabelle.
So I'm super excited to have you on board because you really represent what's the most luxurious, glamorous bridal wear in America that's inspired from India. I think we actually call this fusion. Can you tell me a little bit more about what fusion means?
Yes, so we are, of course, Indian, but we live in the US, and all our outfits represent a part of our culture, whether it be um, in bridal outfits and groom's outfits. All our outfits tell a story, and we love to bring our culture to the Western world.
Yeah, and like part of it is more as just sort of we change because of the market around us change, right? Like we saw over a period of time, now it's in now about 40% of our customers are fusion brides and grooms. So now if you have a Caucasian bride that's getting married to an Indian groom, you want both sides of the family to be happy. So you want elements from both sides, right? So you want like a bride, maybe for us, a traditional outfit is a red lehenga. So she maybe wants to honor the Indian side by wearing a lehenga, but also the American side by making it in white, right? And I mean, turning it into a long gown with maybe a veil and a big train.
So that's
So
exactly where I
the
was about
market,
to go. Sorry. That's where I was about to go. Why red? Because in the Western world it's white. Why red?
So traditionally, red is color of the goddesses in our culture, and red is a sign of purity as well. So now we've seen brides wearing pinks, pastels. It's actually funny that I just read this somewhere that pastels is considered the color of peasants. But now if you'll see tons of brides wearing light pink, celebrities wearing light pinks to their wedding. But traditionally, it was always red.
Would you say that it's pastel? It was for peasants because it meant you didn't have enough money to have a strong dye color?
Correct. So I'm not a historian, so I don't know the exact significance to it, but to me, it's just fashion changes and not everybody wants to wear red. So it's sort of like over time, and I feel like it's going to circle back to red where everybody wants to wear red for their weddings. But right now, it's a good mix of everything: reds, pastels, whites. Really depends what that specific bride's vision is.
So when I think about bridal wear in India, I think about very intricate mirrors. I think about pearls. I think about glass. And being French, it makes me think of Versailles, the candelabras, the hall of mirrors, the intricate Marie Antoinette outfits that we talked about in the first episode of Tell Me Mode. So do you think, would you say in India there's a connection between how the buildings were built and how people were wearing bridals?
I mean, there has to be, right? Like art, culture, and fashion all sort of fuse in together. Um, even to this day, you'll see some of it in the outfits where you will see architectural drawings, especially like I mean, the most famous of them being Taj Mahal, right, from India. You'll see it pasted over lehengas or Shivanis or just regular dresses as well. And then you'll have this very symbolical like peacocks in a forest, which you will see in multiple architectural settings in buildings, also being used in outfits to sort of showcase that.
What does the peacock represent?
Peacock's the national bird of India. So
Ah.
it's the bird and it's beautiful. And another thing that's very common in lehenga, especially for brides, there's this parallel where back in the day, young brides would be sitting in their rooms and there's a baraat, which is where the groom's coming to the wedding venue. So the bride's actually looking out her window because she's not part of the baraat, but she wants to see, all the dancing and the groom coming in for the first time. So you'll see in a lot of bridal outfits a little window with the bride sitting in there because she's waiting for the groom to come get her.
Oh, that's very adorable. Okay, very very okay. So that's actually super interesting because I mean I'm learning a lot of things. I'm sure the audience as well. Okay, so there's a very theatrical aspect to it. That's basically what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
That and then also from an architectural standpoint, right? And then it like everything is a big mixture. So you get the religious side of it as well. So you'll have it, it India used to be a very very massive country. Right now, it's definitely shrunk in size because from I think from 0 AD all the way up until 1700 AD, India and China were both about 20 to 25% statically as global GDPs of the world, right? So just South Asia as a whole made close to 40 to 50% of the global GDP. Um, so it draws inspirations from sort of everywhere, and then over a period of time you see a mix of cultures too towards the latter of like 1600s and 1700s because trades directly with different countries started to grow up.
Yes, there were also French counters, les comptoirs des cotonniers in India, like Pondichéry.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So they were already trading fashion because in Versailles, actually, like it was renowned as being something very luxurious. So moving forward, I wanted. Oh, sorry, sorry.
The Palace of Versailles last winter,
Yeah.
and I actually took photos of this. In the Hall of Mirrors or everywhere in the palace, they had these beautiful paintings, of course. And if you look at all the edging and the trimming, there were swirls. It was all motifs that I've seen in Indian fashion or I've seen it in like Jip or in India. So there's definitely some overlap between, I don't know if it's really fashion or if it's just paintings, but there's definitely an overlap in patterns in both countries.
Yeah, so I think like from a French perspective, I would say like the most interesting thing for me is that in France, the man, like the groom and the bride, which is what we kind of like talked earlier this week about, the groom and the bride are on equal foot. Like sometimes men in France during the 18th century, they would be extremely effeminate. Some would like wear skirts, tights, heels, like it was a whole thing. Would you say that it was the same in India, and would you say it's the same today, like in a traditional wedding?
Yeah, for me, I feel like it started off being both being on sort of an equal fitting, the bride and the groom. If anything, sometimes even the groom might have overpowered the bride, because a lot of what you hear and you see is mostly just top of the line, right? It's the kings and the palaces with all the royal weddings. And what a better display of well to be than at a wedding, right? That's where all the jewelry would come out. Otherwise, it's stuck sitting in some closet. It's the only time for it to come out. So everyone would be extremely adorned. However, growing up or the weddings that I have or we have been to, I don't think that was the case. I think the women definitely took the center stage. And I don't know how or why that transition happened, but I'm 99% sure my dad got married in a suit. He didn't even get married in a Shirvani, and even his grandfather didn't get married in a Shirvani. He got married in a suit. But now the kind of outfits that we're making or the kind of demands that we're getting is very rarely do we see the groom overpower the bride, but we have seen it.
They're at par. Even like the grooms, of course, I think a lot of it has to do with their own personalities. Like if they want to be very subtle or if they want to be very, extravagant. But like recently, I worked with a father of the bride, and he wanted all the bells and whistles. He didn't care that he was, marrying his daughter. He just wanted to look fantastic. So we went into details where he had this exorbitant 4-yard shawl. He had his dog embroidered on his jacket because he wanted his jacket to tell a story. And he just looked phenomenal. So do I think that history repeats itself? I think for sure. Now that I'm working with so many grooms and so many men, I just think men kind of forgot that Indian fashion exists for them too. It's not just for women.
And I can definitely tell you this because this happens to me all the time in the store, because 80% of my grooms will come in asking for a simple outfit. But my first goal is when they come in for them to try something simple, something medium, and something heavy. And then once they try on a heavy outfit, they're like, shit, it's my wedding too. So.
No, absolutely. I totally understand. Thank you for explaining. That's really cool. Is there anything you'd like to add that I did not ask so far?
No.
Okay. Yes. So that kind of like leads me to the next question I had for you guys, is that I feel like Nazraana is very much like a piece of art. It's not to flatter you. It's really what I think. I think like every piece you design is something that if I was getting married in a fusion bridal, I would frame it. So can you tell me a little bit more about the process of making these pieces, where they're made? Do you do hand painting? Do you do hand beading? Do you frame them sometimes? Like, what is the most extravagant pieces you've ever designed?
So my journey with a client starts from just a sit down one-on-one meeting. They'll come in, they'll tell me about themselves, about what their wedding's like, how many people, what makes their outfit different than the thousands of outfits that already exist there, right? Like, what can I design for them that makes it truly unique for them? So like for you, if you were doing a fusion wedding, you want a gown, you want it ivory, you want gold embroidery versus silver, like just whatever makes Annabelle happy, right? Like that's what makes me happy too, right? It's no point creating something that already exists. So my first consultation is just getting to know the couple, what they're looking for, and then we start sketch processes. So like you'll tell me, I want a peacock on my sleeve, I want an abstract geometric pattern in the border, and then we start sketching. We come up with at least 2 variations, run that through the client, and then we go through swatches. So say you picked pure white versus ivory. And of course, you want to be, you can't tell how the color looks on your skin unless you really see a swatch. So when you see the swatch and you're like, oh my God, this is stunning. Oh my God, this is hideous. Let's, add pearls to this, or let's add some blue to it, or let's add some red to it. So once the sketches and swatches are done, then we have a very good idea. Okay, this is what my outfit's going to look like. So like recently I've done outfits where we've done 8 feet trains. Like these outfits weigh more than 80 pounds. Like I've had outfit skirts weigh more than the bride. So it's really amazing to see how versatile Indian fashion is. Like we can create something very subtle but very flamboyant at the same time. So it's for me, my journey starts with sitting down with the couple, seeing what they want, and then starting that creative process.
I just like to add, like I'd like to think we're not like to think. I know we're different from most other designers because of their track and our track, right? Like we're fourth generation into clothing, but we've never been trained in clothing. We've never been trained in designing. I went to school for supply chain and econ. Shivangi went to school. What were you?
Pre-med.
Pre-med. And then senior year of college, she decides to open Nazraana, and that's how the journey begins, right? So what I've seen, and I'm not criticizing, but the what I've seen as a complaint from most of our customers is most designers tend to have their designs and they don't like to deviate from that. And I understand why that is. But we're on a different track altogether where our goal is not to push what we like down your throat or what we had in mind. Our goal is to make sure whatever vision that you have in mind comes to life on the day of your wedding so you look the absolute best when you're walking down the aisle. It's not my vision for you, it's your vision for you. I'm just the hand that's making it happen.
And that's kind of the reason why you guys started your own TV show called Nazara Dairies. Because
That's
we can follow the couples. So tell me, like, tell the audience a little bit. So you guys, just so you know, Nazraana Dairies is available right now, I think, on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV Plus. It's getting like millions of views. I also checked your TikTok this morning while making some research. You guys are TikTok stars. You're you're super famous on TikTok. So the idea is we follow couples and their families from the process of making the pieces for the dresses and the shivanis and the leganis and everything for the D-Day, right?
Yeah, the idea really came from I like when Shivangi was younger, she used to watch what's that, Project Runway?
Say yes to the
Project
dress,
Runway, Say
Project
Yes to the
Runway.
Dress, right? And these are the kind of places where we've learned from, right? So Say Yes to the Dress, I was sitting down at home and one day she's watching this and I see an episode go by and then she's watching the next one and the one after that. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? How can you watch episode after episode of just white gowns? How is this not boring to you? And then something just clicked, right? I'm like, if people are interested in watching and people are so invested in other people's stories with just white gowns, my canvas is so much larger. I can play with colors, I can play with different trends. There's just so much more I can do with the men's outfits. It's not just a simple tux, right? There's so much more I can do. And then the other thing is, like I said earlier, like we saw a big rise in fusion weddings, right? And like we were born and raised in India. I moved here when I was 15, and when she was 14. We weren't used to such multicultural weddings. And then we start seeing a lot of them, and then we start seeing a lot of them being very successful because what happened is a bride would come, they would get married. 2 years later, they'd be in there with their kids, right? And like we saw this happy family, and there's like a paradigm shift, at least in my head, where I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. And part of the reason why we created the show was to bring this aspect of what we saw come to life, to help people navigate who are getting into fusion weddings, that Indians are just extremely dramatic. Like when your mom is saying, I'm not going to show up to your wedding, she's just traumatizing you. She is actually going to show up. There's no reason for the white bride to cry, like when the groom's mom's telling him, if you don't do this, I'm not going to show up to the wedding. That's just how she is. Like it's
The old school guilt always works. Yeah.
yeah, like, but it's for them to know that this is okay, it's normal, it's part of the wedding. We're just crazy. Learn to live with us. But it's just to give people getting married into the culture some insight, and then just delve into like the regular problems people have when they're shopping, because marriages are great, but I think you really get to learn about each other's families when you're wedding planning. And a big part of it is shopping, because you will learn when and not how your in-laws are going to get annoyed by some things that you do during wedding shopping. And we see it in and out every day,
Test each other boundaries, basically.
pretty
Yes.
much.
Well, that's interesting. I never thought about it. That's pretty cool. Yes. And especially with fusion weddings, I guess culturally as well, they can be so potential clash. So actually, I wanted to ask you about that. In terms of like Western cuts, do you have sometimes like brides that would want something a little bit more Western and the other family that wants something Indian? Like, how do you navigate that? That's a fine science to have.
You know, when couples are getting married, it's not just them getting married, right? It's their families getting married too. So there's a lot of opinions, and not negative. It just, the mother of the bride has a certain vision for her daughter, that this is what I imagine my daughter to look like on her wedding day. The mother-in-law has a certain vision that my daughter-in-law should be dressed like this on her wedding day. You know, both sides have their own visions, and it's a big event, right? There's 300, 400 people who come to weddings, and it's all about how everybody looks and how everybody's dressed, and it's a big show and tell. These aren't small, intimate 15 people weddings where everyone, you know, it's a big show and tell, and it's probably one of the biggest days for the couple, for the families, and for the guests who are coming to these weddings. So it just, you have to pick and choose what means the most to the bride. At the end of the day, it's her big day. And if she's not happy and she's not confident wearing what I make for her or what we design together, it doesn't matter what the moms think, right? They've had their days. For me, my first priority is that the bride needs to be happy and she needs to feel her best in her outfit.
Mhm. No, I totally agree. The most important in fashion, anyways, it's always to feel like you don't have to feel comfortable, especially if you're wearing an 80 pounds dress, but at least you feel good.
Yeah, I
Yes.
kid you not, that bride was in here for her fitting,
Mhm.
and I happened to be in this store that day, and she's coming out of the fitting room, and she's like, I'm almost gonna tip over, but it's okay. I love the outfit.
I go into the photos. Yeah, so during the episode, guys, so if you're listening, you won't see the images, but during the editing for social media, we'll add pictures too, because I want people to see what your extraordinary craft is about. I actually wore some of your pieces for red carpets recently, so I know that it's very intricate. Can you tell me a little bit about pearls? So, in your latest collections, you've been using a lot of pearls, and I wanted to know a little bit about what's the origin of pearl adornments in the Indian garments. Out of curiosity, I'm just really curious.
Is actually more of a Western touch. If you look at Indian embroidery, traditionally it's just Zardozi, it's Adi, it's Resham embroidery. Pearls is definitely one of those elements that have brought about, has come about the Western side.
Okay.
Now also, for me, till it's hand stitched, it's still beautiful. I know there's different sizes, different colors of pearls, but it just adds to it. It just adds to already exquisite hand embroidery, and it gives it that pop, that 3D texture. And to me, it bridges the gap between Eastern and Western embroideries.
Yes, because I was thinking, like, wait, do they have pearls? I mean, I'm sure that they have pearls in India. I mean, I know, like, in the Philippines, they're huge on pearls, but I was thinking, like, I've never seen pearls on garments. So now we know it represents the fusion. Last question, because time is running out. You guys have a very exciting runway coming up for New York Fashion Week. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah. So we like I said earlier, right? We're not your traditional designer. So we've also been evolving over a period of time. So this one's actually funny because 2 years ago we started working on a garden in our home. And then my wife got pregnant, and then the garden went to waste. But finally this year we started working on our garden again, and then we saw the flowers starting to sort of bloom. And for some reason, I was just so mesmerized by it. So I decided this year's collection is going to be floral, and I ran that by Shia, and she's like, "Yeah, let's do it." So the theme for this year is floral, and our collection's called Udyan, which in Sanskrit means garden.
That's amazing. How many pieces are you going to show?
22.
We're doing 18 women's and 4 men's.
And you have to tell where you're going to present because it's an amazing location.
So we're gonna be presenting at the Paramount Building on Times Square. So we're really excited. We've done some great venues in the past, but it's always exciting to be in the heart of the liveliest city in the world.
Yes, congratulations again. And also, can you tell us a little bit about something else for people who might not be in New York? I believe you're also available on a digital platform, a video game called Covet, right?
Yeah, and actually, we were just talking to Covet, and so Covet is a game by EA Games where it's a fashion-based game. Actually, not all, but a lot of our pieces are going to be on there, and they're gonna have a challenge up on the 7th, on the day of New York Fashion Week. So as soon as the show goes live, the game's gonna go live. So if you're unable to watch the show, enjoy the game. I hope you like styling with our pieces.
Yeah, so the really cool thing about Covet is that, well, first of all, it is the biggest fashion video game in the world, so kudos to that. But also, it's a really good way of seeing your digital renderings because it is a metaverse showroom in a way. So you guys are both in the tradition and the future.
And they're absolutely amazing. Their renderings are really very good. I props to their artists. They do a phenomenal job.
I know I saw the one that you did with the red, like there was a red rendering, it was beautiful. I loved it. Okay, well, it feels like you guys have a very busy season. Is there anything you'd like to add that I didn't say? We have 4 minutes.
We
No.
didn't talk about what do we consider like royal. I don't know if you need to get into it.
We kind of talked about it a little bit because we were talking about you going to Versailles, then Shashank talked about Taj Mahal. At the end of the day, it went by fast. I was like trying to move through it, but tell me if there's something. But I think it was good, though.
Oh, I think it's good.
Yeah, let me end up the recording. So how do you do that? Stop recording.